This is the painting Little Sparrow, my first painting in Procreate 4 using the wet mix brushes. So now I'm just going to show you how I painted the Little Sparrow painting. I'm just going to open up Procreate, and I've created a stack of images, and here is the painting of the Little Sparrow. And this is how I set up the file. I first started out with a sketch. I first made a rough sketch, and after that I just made an outline of the sketch. And I'm just going to deselect all the other layers that are in this project, and I'm just going to select the sketch layer, and the sketch layer looks like this. So I sketched it with a 6B pencil, and I first did the rough, and on top of that, and I just threw it away because this is a rather large size. I first did this sketch, and I also did some grading with the side of my Apple Pencil, and to get a little bit more structure and just to, you know, see where the values in this piece would be. And I also drew in the sparrow, and in the sketch it's still too big because later on I changed it. And I set this image of the sketch to color burn because I use a little bit of the sketch in the painting, and I just set it to around 15%, or when I'm just starting out I have a little bit more percentage so that I can see where all the shapes are, and I just use this as reference of where I need to paint. And then it's set up because this is the painting, and I also drew the bird on top of that because these are I'm just gonna zoom in. So it's very painterly, and I also made the bird, the sparrow, on a separate layer. So here are the details of the bird. What I also did, and what's great, you know, in painting digital, is that you can add some other layers, and I added some highlights, and maybe you can see the difference. I'm gonna zoom out a little. Here are the highlights. I'm just gonna separate them so that you just can see the highlights on top of the sketch. So these are the highlights, and I set them to overlay. And I also have a separate layer, and mostly I do that in the final stages of the painting. So if I already have the painting, so everything is selected, I use layers for shadows, which is set to multiply, and then you can, you know, draw shades on top of your painting, and then they will blend better. So if I, you know, turn off the painting, here you can see the shadows I added to enhance the image, to, you know, because the focal point of this painting is the sparrow. So I needed to make the sparrow lighter and the background slightly darker. And the last layer is the signature, and I set that to lock. So this is the painting, and I painted everything with the oil paint brush, and that's in artistic. And the oil paint brush is, you know, like, because I really needed to get used to it, to painting with a brush that also pulls away your paint while you're drawing. And the way I drew this, because you of course need a good reference picture, and I did this image I think a year ago or even longer, and I'll leave a link in the description box down below to that video. And that was about painting realistic. and I really like this image, and this is for an exhibition I'm doing, which is going to be in the end of October. So I still need to finish some of the paintings, and this is one of the paintings I'm going to do, and I'm going to print it out on canvas. What I do when I paint something like this, you need good reference. You can do that in two ways. You can have reference within the canvas, but I really don't like that, because I like making slightly different choices when I do the sketch and also paint. I look a lot at the reference picture, and now in iOS 11 you can just swipe up the new bar, and here you see the photos library, and what you can do is tap on it and then drag it to the left, because I am right-handed. When you're left-handed you can do it the other way around, otherwise your hand is in the way of what you're looking at, and then you can just drag it and do a split screen. And here are the two images I used to paint this image. So this is the picture of the water drainage, and this is how I drew it, because then you can, you know, look at your reference picture and also at what you're painting, and you're just switching, looking, painting, and you know, you really need to look good at your reference picture. And what I do is I don't look at the shapes or what I am painting, but I'm looking at the values. I'm painting the lights. So I'm going to replay this so we can walk through how I made this image. You can do that now in Procreate 4 by tapping on video, and now it's called Time-lapse replay. So I first started out with the sketch, and first I did a red background, but later on I switched it to a gray background, because there was a lot more gray going on in the water drainage and also in the roof of this painting. And as you can see, the quality isn't very good because I recorded everything in the normal settings. I really needed to get used to painting with the new oil paint, because when you lay down a color, you first have the paint, but when you just keep on painting, it will pull away paint. But it feels a lot more like painting with a real brush. So I'm just going all over the place because I'm painting with values, and you always have to check the values and, you know, lay them out on your entire painting. Otherwise you'll start out too dark, or some things aren't in place, or some things are too light. And here I made the sparrow smaller, because sparrows are a lot smaller, and this isn't a very big water drainage, but you know, I had the sparrow on a separate layer so that I could move him around, because the placing wasn't right yet, and then you can tilt it and do a lot of other things with it. And what I really like about painting these details is that you can, you know, also pay attention to the lead, because the water drainage is made out of lead, and it has all different structures into one painting. So you have the metal up here, this is wood, and This is here you have the tiles and of course the bricks as well. So I'm working out some details about certain parts in this part of the painting, and then I go back because you need a fresh eye, and then I start drawing or painting somewhere else in the painting. And this part isn't that interesting, so I try to keep it not too detailed, and I try to keep it a little bit more vague, so that the focal point is drawn to the little sparrow. And painting structures like these, but I do that by just tapping on the canvas and to make, you know, little dots and splashes of colors. It's a bit like, you know, dabbing with a dry brush. And then you get the structure. And sometimes I use the lasso tool or the select tool to make stronger shapes, because this is a very strong shadow in this part. And then you can just paint it. And I'm just going to show you, and just going to go through to the end. And you know, this is what the final image looks like. So it's not, you know, it looks realistic, but I have not painted everything in this painting, because when you look at it from a close-up, you know, it's very painterly, and I really like that, you know, that you don't have to paint everything you see, every little detail. And this is just a step in between, because I, you know, want to make this, or make paintings with as less brush strokes as possible, and don't go for the detail. But you know, with each painting you'll get better. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!